Everyone. My name is Mason Miller, and today we are going to be talking about 5 topics regarding the Auckland International Airport. So, without further ado, I will just go ahead and get right into it. The first topic of discussion that I'm going to address is what benchmarks should Auckland Airport use to measure success for its strategic plans. Now, as far as performance is concerned, there are different benchmarks that Auckland International Airport can use to measure success. It can use financial ratios to measure financial success, and this would allow them to look at things the way bankers and investors look at things when the bankers and investors are trying to make a decision as to whether they want to invest their money in an airport. Now, there are other ways of measuring success, and one of those other ways of measuring success might even be a better way, because that measure of success is the balanced scorecard. The balanced scorecard measures different types of success. It measures financial success, it measures success in the customer service realm, it measures internal processes, learning, and growth. So the balanced scorecard is good for measuring a myriad of different things that one might deem to be success. So we'll talk about the balanced scorecard. Something that stood out to me with regard to the balanced scorecard, as I previously mentioned, was measuring customer service. Customer service is very important to Auckland Airport because of the 2 big retail stores that exist in Auckland airports, which generate much of the non-aeronautical revenue for Auckland Airport. So with that being said, it is absolutely critical that they have good customer service, and it's good if they can measure that. Also, the other thing that stood out to me with regard to the balanced scorecard is measuring growth. Growth is very important to Auckland Airport because they are planning on expanding their facilities and eventually achieving the passage of 40 million passengers through their airport within the next 30 years. So measuring growth, that's a big one. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and get on to the second topic that I wanted to address. And the second topic is, Littlewood said the airport's new departure lounge cost between $160 million and $180 million and be built in 3 primary phases. Discuss these phases and their importance. Now, I did extensive research on this, and I was not able to explicitly find 3 phases, but what I did explicitly find was 4 phases for improving the terminal. And the 4 phases, there are 4 primary phases, and they will take place over the course of the next 30 years. Phase 1 is the conception of an updated terminal, which should take place within the next 5 years. This phase includes completion of a road network, improved bus access, and completion of terminal plaza, as well as new parking facilities. Phase 2 is conception of a northern runway, and this should be completed within the next 10 years. This phase involves forecourt extension, and forecourt, the definition of a forecourt is a large space, like a big yard almost, a large space in front of a large building. So they want to expand their forecourt as well in phase 2, and phase 2 will take place over the course of the next 10 years. Then there is phase 3, and phase 3 is terminal expansion, which will take place within the next 20 years. It involves expansion of international and domestic piers. So this phase involves lengthening the piers at the airport, and then lastly there is phase 4, which is the extension of the northern runway that I previously mentioned in phase 2, and this will take place over the course of the next 30 years. And this last phase also involves improvements on surrounding road networks. So those are the 4 phases. Now I'm going to get into the third topic, and the third topic is to discuss service quality and how it can be measured. Use the gap model to determine if any gaps currently exist and can be filled. So I think that first and foremost, we need to define what service quality is. And service quality has been defined by the Business Dictionary 2018 as an assessment of how well a delivered service conforms to the client's expectations. So service quality can be measured by administering surveys. This is one of the easiest methods, and also it gives good feedback. Management can administer surveys, they can collect the surveys, and they can quantify the results of the survey. As far as the gap model is concerned, I think that management did a pretty good job at Auckland Airport of closing the gaps. The only gap that I saw pertained to gap 3, and gap 3 is a gap between the experience specification that management makes and the delivery of the experience. Now, more specifically speaking, I said that this gap that I'm about to talk about that pertains to gap 3 because the gap, specifically speaking, deals with the conception of their social media and digital communications. And they plan on improving their social media and digital communication strategy with the use of TripIt, which will help customers navigate the airport. So they have these specifications for this, and they've begun working on it, but they just have to continue to improve it and perfect it, and they are working on closing that gap right now. So I'm going to go ahead and get into the 4th topic, and the 4th topic is Littlewood said individual projects will be triggered when passenger levels meet set targets, but delayed if arrival numbers stagnate. Discuss how environmental facets may cause these delays or progress. So there are environmental factors that play into the individual projects that will be triggered once enough passengers have passed through and enough revenue has been generated to be able to afford these. And that is the environmental facet that plays into that is infrastructure. So they have to have the infrastructure capacity in order to make improvements in their buildings and their facilities. And infrastructure is basically defined as the factors that support a business, the physical factors that support a business. There are different types of infrastructure. There's transportation, there's buildings and facilities, just to name a few, and they are putting a lot of thought into the size and scale of the airport. And as I previously mentioned, transportation is one type of infrastructure, and there being airplanes in an airport, they have already begun to improve that because they've gotten new airplanes, which include A350s and 787s. So this has allowed them to improve their air transportation. And also, fuel prices were lower, which allowed more passengers to a Florida trip to New Zealand, which therefore increases the number of passengers that attend Auckland Airport. So that being said, in summation, the environmental factor that is at play for Auckland Airport is infrastructure. Now I'll get into the last topic, and the last topic is using Porter's five forces model, explain the first mover advantages. Explain how first mover advantages would be key to successful market share dominance for Auckland Airport. Porter's five forces can explain how first mover advantages would lead to Auckland International Airport having market share dominance. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sequentially go through his five forces, and I'm going to tell you how each one pertains to Auckland Airport. So the first force is rivalry amongst existing firms. Littlewood explains that Auckland Airport will compete by trying to enter Germany and England's markets. Also, United Airlines as well as American Airlines have recently been making good use of the airport. These are recent developments. Lastly, Auckland will be staying involved in China's market, which has already been a lucrative market for them. So that explains the first force. The second force of Porter's five forces is substitution. Auckland Airport has been around for long enough that it is well established, so it would need to make sure that other industries couldn't replace what it has to offer. Targeting countries around the Pacific Rim gives Auckland Airport a geographical advantage in terms of transportation, and other industries like automotive or shipping wouldn't be able to compete with it because, first of all, cars cannot move through water, and second of all, ships can't go as fast as airplanes. So that is one way that the airline industry helps Auckland Airport, and therefore other industries would not be able to move in on Auckland Airport's territory. The third force of Porter's five forces is new entry. Auckland Airport has been around for a while, so they are not trying to enter into an industry. However, its main concern is growth and not losing business to other airports that are new entrants to the transportation and logistics industry. The fourth force of Porter's five forces is power of customers. One of the components of the power of customer is the number of customers that a business has. So the more passengers that Auckland Airport has, the better, and that is one component right there. And that's why they are trying to achieve, or they're not specifically trying to achieve it, but they are envisioning that there will be 40 million passengers passing through Auckland Airport within the next 30 years. That being said, Auckland Airport is trying to increase the number of passengers, and it has a geographic advantage that will allow them to do this to capture clientele around the Pacific Rim. The fifth force of Porter's five forces is power of suppliers, and Auckland Airport has benefited from this because they did get some new airplanes, A350s and 787s, so they've been supplied with airlines that are making use of their facilities. The airlines have been supplied with A350s and 787s, and also lower fuel prices, which allows airlines to compete better, and more people are willing to fly. They can fly cheaper because of lower fuel prices. As far as retail goes at Auckland Airport, suppliers have provided the two big retail stores with a myriad of different brands that allow customers to have a wide selection of choices as far as perfumes and cosmetics, and that helps differentiate the shopping experience at Auckland Airport. So anyway, this is my discussion on Auckland Airport, and I hope you all have enjoyed, and I look forward to hearing you all's discussions. Okay, bye-bye.